a message from Elon Musk saying, quote, "Best place to hide a dead body is page 2 of the Atlantic magazine." That post mocking a shocking security breach by Trump's national security advisor, defense secretary, secretary of state, and vice president. Well, here's what happened. Mike Waltz, Trump's national security advisor, apparently accidentally added the Atlantic journalist Jeffrey Goldberg to a top-secret group chat on Signal, a group chat about an American attack on a foreign adversary. So it's top secret, except for they put a reporter in it. Then they went on to detail classified information about a U.S. missile attack before they did it. According to Goldberg, it all started when he received a request to connect with Michael Waltz. Goldberg accepted. He was unsure whether this was real, whether this is really Trump's national security advisor or someone masquerading as Waltz, so he clicks yes. And then the group starts to get active. 2 days later, Goldberg is included in a group chat called Houthi PC Small Group. So Waltz requests him as a contact, then adds him into this group. And the first message comes in from what appears to be Waltz's account to the group. Team establishing a principals group for coordination on Houthis, particularly for over the next 72 hours. And then that's when it got hot in there. According to Goldberg, 18 members of Trump administration were added to this chat. And in that group, Vice President Vance, Defense Secretary Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Secretary of State, Director of National Intelligence, CIA Director, Chief of Staff, they're all in the group chat. And Friday morning, Goldberg says the account linked to Waltz texts the group again. Team, you should have a statement of conclusions with taskings per the president's guidance this morning in your high side inboxes. Now, high side refers to a classified communication system. But of course, then they started to talk about all this stuff in the group. The account labeled Vance responds in part, "I think we're making a mistake. I'm not so sure the president's aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now." There's some more back and forth with various parties, and then what we're going to show you here is a screenshot of some of the messages that followed. Vance says, "If you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again. Let's just make sure our messaging is tight there." Hegseth replies, "I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's all caps pathetic. But Mike is correct. We're the only ones on the planet who can do this." Stephen Miller chimes in, "As I heard it, the president was clear, green light." So then, Saturday, March 15th rolls around in the morning. The account labeled Hegseth posts, quote, "Team update." And it is then that, according to Goldberg, the Secretary of Defense of the United States of America posted confidential information about targets and weapons that the U.S. would use in the attack. And 2 hours later, the U.S. did indeed do just that and struck Yemen.
Establishing deterrence is critically important. And so we're out here to talk to our commanders and, more importantly, meet with the troops all across the Indo-Pacific, and then our allies and partners, too, are going to be a critical part of ensuring the future in this region is free. And so we're glad to be here. It's a beautiful day. Had a full work day on the plane. Now we got a full work day here as well, and looking forward to it. One question?
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with the journalists in the Atlantic, and were those details classified?
So I characterized nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you. I appreciate it.
The NSC said it was on reason.
All right, obviously didn't want to take those questions after the disparaging comments he made about Jeffrey Goldberg from the Atlantic, making it about that he's a deceitful so-called journalist. Of course, he's the one that they chose to include in their group. Accidentally or not, that's what happened. All right, Jeff Zeleny, now we just heard the Defense Secretary break his silence on this. This is not going to get smaller at this moment.
Well, Aaron, he just said nobody was texting war plans. That is in direct contrast to what the White House said. They verified the authenticity of the messages that were sent out, and they said that there was going to be a review of how the reporter happened to join or be asked to join. So that is at odds with there. Of course, you heard the Defense Secretary launch into a litany of other matters that are not germane to this point here. But the bottom line of all this is the president is saying that he has the utmost confidence in his national security advisor, Mike Waltz, who apparently invited Jeffrey Goldberg onto this chat. We shall see. This is the very beginning of this, and we know that everyone always has the utmost confidence until they don't. So we will see how this unfolds. I am learning tonight that White House officials are reviewing how the encrypted app Signal is used. It was used widely during the presidential campaign, and that's not unusual. A lot of people talk in Signal at places of business or in government, but this is a different matter because it is a military exercise. So I'm told it's being reviewed. One official telling me this: everyone is on Signal all day, all night. That may well change. We shall see. But this is going to be front and center tomorrow on Capitol Hill, where Republicans and Democrats alike have raised deep questions about this because there happens to be a key Senate hearing tomorrow that's looking at worldwide threats. So the Director of National Intelligence, the CIA Director, are scheduled to testify at this hearing that always has a lot of attention on it because they talk about the threats facing the world. Now suddenly some new questions for them about this administration era.
Oh, yeah, certainly going to be coming up tomorrow because those individuals you just mentioned were all part of the chat. All right, Jeff Zeleny, thank you very much. I want to go now to Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego. He's a Marine combat veteran who served in Iraq. And Senator, you just heard the Defense Secretary refer to Jeffrey Goldberg, the Atlantic reporter, who Mike Waltz invited into the group chat. Right, he was invited by the group, and then he sat in there. Nobody ever looked. He called him a deceitful so-called journalist. He didn't have any answer as to why he was in the group or anything. I mean, what do you make of his response, how he's chosen to answer it? He, of course, is the one who posted those war plans.
First of all, as Secretary of Defense and as a former Army officer, the Secretary of Defense should know better. He needs to take responsibility for what happened under his watch. If I had done any of this as a Marine, I would have clearly been court-martialed. There have been other people that have dealt and done some very serious time because of things of this nature. But the fact that he won't take any leadership, any ownership, and try to get to the bottom of this puts us even in a worse situation. Operational security is extremely important, not because it keeps the reputation of the Secretary of Defense, it's what keeps our armed services, armed forces safe. And the fact that they're trained in such a cavalier attitude should really worry everybody that cares about our armed services.
And I want to ask you about something else he said. Obviously, the White House has confirmed these messages, has confirmed that this happened. And he denies that there were any war plans posted. But in fact, that there were, right? Goldberg has the targets and weapons. These were posted by Defense Secretary Hegseth. So the targets and the weapons to be used to hit them, all of that posted by Hegseth. Apparently he's denying that now. It seems that he did just deny that, even though that happened. Senator, just to be clear, Goldberg did not publish that information because the Atlantic felt that it would be inappropriate and wrong. They did not publish it, but it was put into the group.
This is a distraction. This is a distraction that we're talking about Goldberg. What we should be talking about is the fact that Secretary of Defense was unqualified to begin with, and now he's actually proven himself. This is a mistake that under any other administration would have already made the Secretary of Defense resign. The fact that they're trying to, again, treat us a cavalier attitude, what does it say to our allies? What does it say to our enemies? Now, the Houthis don't necessarily have a very good signal intelligence capabilities or capabilities to hack and track our phones, but they do have allies. They are allied with Iran. They are sometimes allied with other malign actors that may be able to do that. And the fact that now everyone knows that some of our most key national security advisors are all talking on Signal should really scare us. And the fact that this is happening and you have an utter lack of leadership coming from this administration, from the Secretary of Defense, is absolutely offensive.
Your colleague, Republican John Cornyn, Senator, told our Manu Raju that the quote, I'm sorry, it sounds like a huge screw up. And then Congressman Don Bacon, another Republican, former Air Force veteran, and a signals intelligence officer, just told Manu this. I wanted to play it for you, Senator.
I will guarantee you 99.99% with confidence, Russia and China are monitoring those two phones. So I just think it's a security violation. And there's no doubt that Russia and China saw this stuff, within hours of the actual attacks on Yemen or the Houthis. So that's wrong.
Obviously, the phones he appears to be referring to are the security advisor and the vice president. There's obviously CIA was in there. I mean, they were all in there. Defense secretary. But how are your Republican colleagues that you've spoken to? Do they have that outrage, and are they willing, like Senator Cornyn, like Congressman Bacon, to speak out?
Look, we are barely getting back to the session, but I'll tell you what we know for a fact. had this been done by the Biden administration, or the Obama administration, Republicans would be losing their minds. And the fact that they're not is that they treat this national security breach as a partisan issue. This is not a partisan issue. If a Democrat had done this, we would be just as outraged. And someone within that chain, someone who's responsible, whether it's the Secretary of Defense or whether it's Walz, someone has to take responsibility, and someone has to resign for this. This is very dangerous. These are national security communications happening. You're talking about targeting, you're talking about weapons, you're talking when they're going to go, when they're going to fly. And the fact that it was done in such a cavalier attitude also just gives you overall bigger problems happening with this administration, that they feel they can just run amok at this point and feel that there's no consequences. The consequences, though, are the safety of our Armed Services Committee, and the fact that they're not treating this seriously should really question whether Secretary of Defense Hexa should still be in there, because he's not dealing with the moment.
All right, Senator Gallego, I appreciate your time and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brian Goodman is with me now, legal analyst here out front and former special counsel at the Department of Defense. So, Brian, you just heard Senator Gallego saying one or more there needs to go. I mean, Walz was the one who invited the reporter into the group. Hegseth is the one who posted the targets and weapons used to target. Obviously, from at this moment, it doesn't seem like anyone's going to resign. We'll see. But, I mean, when we say an extraordinary breach, is that the right word?
Absolutely. Don't know of any analog in history that's like this. And when these kinds of war plans are discussed at the Pentagon, there are many rooms that you can't even have the discussion in the Pentagon. You have to go to highly secure rooms. Oftentimes they're windowless because they need to be that secure from U.S. adversaries being able to eavesdrop. If there's a window, then it has to be a highly secured window. You can't bring your device into that room. So they aren't even just like bringing their device into the room, they're using their personal devices to communicate over this commercial messaging app. I've never heard anything like it.
So could anyone in it be in legal trouble? Anyone who was in this group, if they are not in actual chain of command, getting fired or resigning trouble?
Absolutely. If we had an independent Justice Department, I'm sure they'd be looking into this. If these were lower level officials, I'm sure they'd be looking into this. The statute is actually one that many Americans can be familiar with. It's the Espionage Act. And there's a
Gallego said he'd be court-martialed if he...
That resonated with me when he said that. I was like, yes, that's very likely. That would have been a result. Or when Hillary Clinton used a private server, the investigation by the Justice Department and the FBI was whether or not she was grossly negligent. I think if you hear some of what the members of the Hill are saying, Republicans and Democrats alike, that this was grossly negligent. And that's actually the terms of the criminal statute for having gross negligence in mishandling classified information. And in fact, if it's disclosed to somebody who's unauthorized and on their call is a journalist, that means there was in fact a disclosure.
Right. And of course, Secretary of Defense's response was to deny what he did and to disparage the journalist. All right, Ryan, thank you very much. And next, the breaking news, a showdown in